Welcome to Two Psychics. This is Michael Edley, evidential medium and mystic, discussing all things spiritual.
Hello, I'm Mary Amy of Two Psychics, an intuitive wisdom coach, tapping into your mystical life and sharing messages I receive about you.
Hi, Michael. How are you?
What's up, Mary Amy? How are you?
It's all a coordination, and I got it. Welcome to Two Psychics. We're on episode 45. It's March 20th. Tonight, it's all about Bigfoot-Sasquatch. We have a call-in, and we have guest David Eller, who's a cryptozoologist and Bigfoot investigator. How have you been, Michael? What's new since I saw you? We haven't been on the show for 2 weeks. How have you been?
Yes, I am good. I'm doing well. I'm keeping busy with readings and different events I'm doing, so it's been good. Just kind of getting into the zone right now. I'll be talking with my management team tonight on some new, hopefully some new things occurring in the new age realm that I'll be a part of. So for those of you that don't know, some exciting news. I've actually been brought on, taken kind of on with a management team. So they'll be representing me. They'll be doing, hopefully in the future, whatever Two Psychics are doing, whatever I'm doing, we'll be pulling this all together. And it's a really exciting time. And I think it's just really important for people to stay focused. It's really easy right now with everything that we're seeing going on in society and, the disharmony, the chaotic energy, that seems to be running rampant. I've never had so many private one-on-one readings with, small business owners, other practitioners, people that are involved in many different industries. And it just seems like everyone has that common, fear of uncertainty and how things are going to unravel. And I don't think it matters really what your political views are, whether you're red or blue, whether you're black or white. I think it, there's really a common theme of uncertainty right now. And I think what people need to understand is when we're dealing with this energy and this chaotic energy, when we're feeling anxious over it and we're feeling that it's kind of pulling us off center, that's truly a time where we can embrace and go deep with this energy and sit with it, and we can utilize it for our highest and best good rather than let it deplete us and kind of take us off center. So, I think everything that we talk about here and everything that we try to help people navigate with is to keep you, focused and on, on course. And I think that's what it is. And it's really easy to, you see a ship and it goes slightly off course, slightly off course, slightly off course. And, over a month, 2 months, 3 months, where your direction was here, you could be completely out of range. But if we make a small step to keep us, focused and keep us moving forward, no matter how big or how small that step is, I think it's just really important to put that energy forward. So we are, kind of keeping aligned with our divine self. It's really important. And that's my main thing right now. I want to try to help people get back to that center, get back to that focus, because it's so easy to just get pulled into the news, get pulled into whatever the daily drama is. And, that's the one thing that I could say is control as much as you can the way you're reacting. We can't control all the outside sources of energy that are coming towards us, but we can try to align ourselves with the people that we feel are the people that are near and dear to our soul and our soul's divine purpose. Try to put ourselves in those environments and those places that we align with, and really take a step back and scrutinize, any area of your life where you're not satisfied and where you think you need, focus and improvement in. And that's it. That's really the basis of a lot of this energy cycle right now. I think it's a self-reflection period. And I think a lot of growth can come from this. No matter how chaotic the world seems, we can always find the divine source of our path in any type of energy.
Yes, I have been spending a winter of being sick, falling off my game, feeling defeated, trying to pull myself up. And I realized that emotionally I had some disappointments. And I also had someone that I was dealing with on a daily basis, really every day in an environment that was toxic. And I didn't realize that when I was feeling badly about that, we weren't really on the same page, this person and I. It was taking away from me. And then it started actually affecting me, my health, my thinking. I started feeling bad that I couldn't make this work. And it's toxic. So in the last few days, since I guess it was Monday, I decided to set my boundaries differently. And instead of me being engulfed by this negative energy, and then, like you mentioned, alignment, my alignment was all off. And I don't think it was helping with being sick, the weather, and then this person. So I decided I'm going to just set my boundaries, put light around me. I'm not going to focus on that because it's taking away and it just doesn't work. It's like it's almost a year of it not working. And now it's interesting because all of a sudden I have more energy. I'm sleeping better. I'm really focused on my book. I'm really excited about my life. And I think if you want to take this on a grander scale rather than just in the small environment of my life, if everyone was to be very clear on their intentions, imagine, there's an imaginary line 12 inches from your body and nothing can come into your space mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, unless you allow it. We would all be able to stay on our game. We would all be able to feel closer to our own genuine development and goals. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm definitely healing. I'm definitely feeling better. And I'm going to keep that in mind. So in the future, I think some of these things that we're encountering in the physical reality are tests to see if you can use your intuition, if you can trust yourself, and if you can have faith and not give up. And instead of following the pack, just ignore a lot of what's going on out here. It's going to play out a certain way. Focus on your life, like look for whatever goal it is that you want.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think the one thing that people need to realize is when that energy is pulling them out of their alignment and they're becoming very angry, very anxious, they're feeling these emotions and this turmoil, they're completely disempowering any of their divine self. And I understand some people have been hit hard in certain ways. And again, sometimes it's multifaceted. Sometimes we're dealing with loss, and then we're dealing with sickness, and we're dealing with our own uncertainty. But the one thing I can tell you is when we truly align, we're going to see the opportunities around these things, and we're going to see a path that can help us get through them. It's not always going to be easy, and it's not always going to be, very cut and dry, and that's the one thing. And it's one thing that I see a lot is people tend to think they can just, immediately manifest something that they want or manifest change without putting in any of the work, any of the sweat equity, any of the actions and the processes and the procedures that you need to consistently do to stay aligned. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people think we get to a point and we're balanced and we're aligned and we're in the spiritual zone and we've awakened. And people think, hey, I've arrived and I don't need to do the work anymore, or I'm good. And, I have this force field of energy around me and nothing can permeate it. I mean, that's cool. And we can get that energy at points, but we're not always 100% of the time going to be in that space. And when we're not, that's when the doubt and the fear and the problems, can sink in. And the more tuned in we are, the less that's going to take us off center. The more we can find, I would say, our inner voice, and we trust that and we follow it. We always know that's our compass. No matter what's going on around us, we can always go into that compass and say, okay, it's crazy right now, but let me get some insight. Let me get some guidance. Let me trust, and let me see what is the best way my divine self can lead me through this, and a lot of times we give that power away, or we feel disempowered, or we feel like there's nothing else we can do. There always is something that we can do, no matter how small, and no matter how small that is, it can absolutely create a momentous shift and a change. And that's truly what people need to understand is we are completely talking about energy. We are energy. The realm we live in is of energy. The spiritual realm is of energy. I mean, so much of this is understanding the dynamics of that energetic connection and how everything is linked. And there's a chain reaction that can kind of trickle down throughout all of this. So the more we can stay on, the more back to center we're going to get when we're thrown off, and it's one of those things like, and a perfect example, when I started embracing this spiritual aspect of myself and knew this was the journey and the path I needed to go on, I had to do a lot of work. There was a lot of inner work that I had to get through to establish my foundation. So I had that energetic stability when I was doing readings for other people, or I was doing a gallery, or I was dealing with such heavy grief of the loss of a child, the loss of a parent, someone that suddenly, had been taken away from this physical reality. And if you are not grounded and you haven't done this work, you're going to totally lose it, and as a practitioner, that's what our clients are depending on. They're depending on us to be that foundation of that spiritual connection so we can bring that information through. And, it's not always going to be easy, but the more work we do to stay on that center, the easier it's going to be when we get thrown off. So initially you start doing it. And what I found was, like, I was a bad driver. I would have road rage, and I was always, for whatever reason, I was always in a rush, and just wacky stuff would happen. And I knew it. And that's the funniest thing is I knew that was such an energy block for me. And it threw me in such a bad mood. And it would, and it would really cause the first several hours of my day to be completely off track. And then I would find I was getting back on track, maybe by midday, and then I was good, and would something else throw me off. And when I started doing this work, maybe someone would cut me off and I would be pissed off, but I would only be pissed off for an hour. And then I would be like, all right, I'm over it. And it was no big deal. And I'm letting that person's energy and what they did affect me and negatively affect me, and it really shifted my perspective. And then when I started seeing improvement, and that was like my indicator that it was working, is when I was much calmer driving. And it may be something different for somebody else. It may be someone handling, a kid or a friend or a coworker, like you spoke about, shifting, your boundaries. And it really is the same for our own energy. We really have to align that spiritual body and the physical body. And the human body wants to pull us in so many dysfunctional emotions. And sometimes it's for our own protection. Sometimes it's to keep us safe. Sometimes, we have that ingrained fear of, think of the Neanderthals and the tiger coming to eat them, or, something crazy coming to kill them. They had to run, or they had to, they had that fight or flight thing. Well, we have a different.
Oh, wait, hold on. We have our caller.
Oh, and we got a caller. So we shifted, and we still have that energetic system ingrained in our body. It's kind of that fight or flight system. And that's part of what we're dealing with. So we have to understand that on the human level. And again, we just allow that small step to keep us on track. And we do that on a daily basis.
Hello, is our caller there? Can you hear us?
Yes, hi, I'm calling for Mary.
Hi, this is Mary and Michael, two psychics. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, welcome. Who do we have here with us?
I'm Marguerite.
Marguerite?
Hi, Marguerite.
Hello, yes. Marguerite. Thank you for calling Two
How
Psychics. Good. Where are you calling from?
Rye, New York.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so you're kind of you're in our realm of the world. So that's good. Did you have a particular question or an aspect of life or something that you're dealing with that you wanted us to try to read the energy around?
Not necessarily.
All right. You want us to just kind of open up, connect on an energetic level, and we can kind of see what's going on around you?
Yes.
All right. So that's how it works. It's an energetic process. So we just kind of want you to relax, let the energy flow. What I do want you to do, if you can just say your first name very slowly for us, and we're going to actually connect on an energetic level. So if you could just go ahead and say your first name for us, please.
Marguerite.
Okay, Marguerite. It's interesting. So initially, as I hear your name, I want to try to explain a little bit how this works. I have overwhelming female energy, and I normally sense kind of the energetic relationship to spirit and how they were related to you. Mom's side always comes in from like, I feel that coming in on my left. If it's dad's side, I always feel it coming into my right. What's interesting is I have older energy coming into my left. So I feel like there could be grandfather energy, older male energy that's connected to dad. But then I also have energy that's connected to mom's energy. This is weird. So I'm either connecting to mom very prominently or grandma or aunt, like, so female energy that would be connected to mom. I have that. Is mom's in spirit? Is that correct?
Yes, she is.
Okay. So I appreciate that. So that's, and I want to explain how the energy comes to me and how we feel that. We basically use our body as an antenna, as a medium. So I'm pulling in mom's energy. Now, the interesting thing with, just see where they're sitting. So I definitely have mom coming through. Energy around dad that's older than dad. I have to ask about dad's dad, and a taller, slender. This man, I have this. I don't believe this is dad. I believe this is connected to dad. Now, is dad also in spirit, or is he still here?
Yes, he's in spirit also.
He is in spirit. Okay. So let me just start explaining how I'm seeing them in my mind's eye. So, dad, for whatever reason, I'm seeing dark. Like, I don't know if he had quite a bit of hair at the end, or if grandfather that was around him had a lot of hair and it was like darker for a period of time. And taller, like I'm seeing really long legs, taller, slender, like skinnier legs. Can you take that? Who am I seeing?
I never knew my grandparents. I don't know. They were dead before I was.
Okay. So interesting. What? Now, I don't know why I'm seeing like Lithuania, and what's weird is I'm actually seeing Transylvania, and I'm actually seeing like this weird castle. I don't know if do you know, is your family European? Are there European connections to the family on dad's side?
European, yes.
What is it?
Yes, they're both European.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of connections. Like, they're kind of pulling me to that direction of a lot of family history, on dad's side. I'm vividly seeing the F initial, and I don't know if I'm seeing a Frank or a Frank. What's interesting is FR. Who is the FR that's around you now? This may not be someone in spirit. This could also be a name they're referring to of someone around you. If there's an energetic cycle that you're dealing with, is there an F or a family? What's the F? What's the F initial?
F.
Yeah, Frank, Fran, F. Is there anything with the F?
I mean, I do have a cousin that I met once. His name was Frank. Couple of times I met him.
Interesting. Is Frank still here, or is it potential that he could be in spirit?
No.
He's in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Okay. I believe they're giving me that name. I believe he's coming through too. This is very interesting. So there's quite a bit of spirit coming through around you. I have to talk about the family coming in. Have you been are you going through an energetic cycle or like some kind of transition right now where they're really trying to show you they're around you and they're supporting you, and like their energy is very connected to you? And it's interesting because I am seeing the number 3. I don't know if you're one of 3 or there's 3.
I am.
You are one of 3.
I'm one of 3. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So that's how this works. They're starting to try to validate with evidence who they were, how they're connected to you, and what your life is like and what's going on around it. I know I have a really, really good connection to them. I have to ask, so I feel as if they're bringing my awareness to something either you're dealing with, or I don't know if there's a sister that's involved that you're helping her navigate medical, or this is you or someone was there a recent surgery around you, either you or someone close to you?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, there's no one, like no one's dealing with medical testing, or is there any kind of like medical stuff going on with someone around you?
Not that I know of.
Okay. All right. Not sure. No. Normally when I'm getting the energy like this and I'm feeling them pulling in the family members and they're kind of trying to show they're around you, and they're pulling more and more family through. A lot of times they're directing, like the energy I sense around this is like there's an energetic shift happening. has there been like a significant change? Like either you are changing careers, jobs, something new, a relationship change, transition? I feel like they're talking about like crossroads, or like there's this divide, or like a decision. Like you're making like, I have to go left, I have to go right.
Could be a divide. My sister and I are not speaking. I don't know.
Exactly. No. This is exactly, that's why they're bringing my attention to this. Okay. And that's totally fine. And understand, I just, okay, so I just want to give you the energy around this a little bit, and and then I'll hand it off to Mary Amy, and she can give you a little bit of her interpretation around the energy of this. But I truly believe, like, I feel like mom and dad's energy, and also like pulling in Frank, I feel like with what they were doing initially is just trying to validate that they're around you. So I don't know if you're very skeptical with this stuff, or you just kind of felt like you're not connecting, or like they've been distant. Even, well, I'm sorry, what's that?
I said I'm not skeptical about it.
Okay, so you're pretty open. So if you're pretty open to this, have you been asking, hey, give me a sign, or kind of show me, or kind of help me along this point, or where I'm at? I almost feel like they want to validate they're around you. So let me just talk a little bit about where I feel like they're going with you and your sister. So I feel whatever decisions were made around this, for them to kind of bring my energy into that, and for them to talk about the siblings connected to you, sister energy that I feel like they were drawing me into around that. I would say whatever the divide was, or whatever the disagreement was, I do believe there was probably misinformation, or all the details weren't worked out, or someone didn't completely explain things. And I almost feel like I have to honor like how maybe you handled the situation. I don't know if you kind of pulled back or held back from being really nasty, or yet I feel like they're kind of honoring decisions that you may have made around you and your sister's relationship, or whatever had transpired, and they're okay with that. So if there was, wow, what's going on, or should I have handled this differently? I just have to say, with the energy around this, I almost feel like I'm acknowledging support. I'm acknowledging support from your spiritual collective. And that's just the energy I sense around you. It's kind of consoling, supporting, kind of helping you navigate this energy cycle, because it's like a divide. I don't think all the information has been presented yet. So if was there a falling out around like one of the passing of your parents, or like estate, or like that type of thing, property?
Oh, but yes, there was. Yes, but it was years ago.
No, that's fine, because just understand. I mean, that's what they're showing me. That's what they're imprinting on me. Just understand there's some unresolved issues from that period that have carried over into this conflict. So that's, that's what I'm sensing. So you may want to just kind of sit and kind of I hate going back into the past for things, but maybe if we can kind of rethink how things went, how people handled and reacted in that situation, you might be able to see how things may unfold around this. They're bringing me to that, and they're bringing me, they're showing me this for a reason. And that's what I believe. They want to bring some type of insight and guidance around how things had unfolded, and maybe similarities that could be unfolding now. So without Mary Amy, what are you getting around this?
Hi, how are you, Marguerite?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. Okay, so this is what I received. Immediately, I received water, waves moving in a circular motion, and then you're in the middle of it, and that's related to your freedom and personal power. Let's see, I heard, because I'm hearing things too. I'm hearing skiing and skating. And that's related to your ability to glide, your ability to move forward and glide to the next situation, whether you realize it or not. You have that ability. I also received, so you have a very strong personality. And I had images of lace pillows and blankets, which is related to your need for comfort and protection and peace. Again, I got movement, athletic. You fly without protection. I don't want to say you jump into situations, but it's again like you glide through situations. I sense a lot of alone, some betrayal, need for love. Sometimes you believe that others you believe in others more than yourself. There's some kind of patchwork related to your past, a clinging. For some reason, I had the image of baby animals, which is related to your confidence, your ambition, things close to your heart. Then I got back, for some reason, transportation came back. Again, which transportation to me was like the skiing and the skating, and about how your mind explores situations before and how can you handle them beforehand. In other words, that you have a strong ability to relay in your mind a situation and the different dynamics of it. Like you take it apart, just like I use the word patchwork. So you can see things and break them apart. And then at the end, I saw an island, and that represents your inner world. And then you're cruising around the outside of it, not landing on the island, and that represents your emotions. And what I'm getting at is, Marguerite, I believe that you can, if you're ready to, join completely with yourself to be whole, because you are, I don't know if it's because of pain, you're not like embracing your whole self, like hugging your heart, hugging yourself, and just letting go of some of these things that are deterrent from you getting where you want to go, because you can, like I said, you can glide through things. You have a lot more personal power than you're giving yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
I would slow down a little bit right now. I almost feel like your energy is kind of on fast forward, like you're living very much looking towards future events, future possibilities, and that's good. But why I believe mom and dad and pulling in Frank, kind of that energy, I truly believe they just want you to know you're supported. If you're very open and tuned into this, I believe they will give you messages directly. We all have these abilities. We all have these natural psychic abilities. The biggest thing is we normally get pulled out of the present moment. We're thinking about the past, we're thinking about the future, and there's times and moments for that, just like we've discussed in this reading. But what I truly believe is you'll be very present, and I think you'll see the signs from your guides, whether that's mom, dad, your angelic presence. And I would just look for those synchronicities. I would be very clear if you're asking for guidance, very one-sided yes or no questions, and look for the coincidences that truly aren't coincidences. It's your spiritual guides trying to direct you in the path to take if you're unsure. Because that's what I feel. I feel as if there's a lot of uncertainty, that you're feeling right now. And I think it's time to slow down and be very present, and you're going to be divinely guided as long as you just kind of allow your mind to quiet down as much as you can, and I do believe you're going to have to, whether you're walking in nature or whether you're sitting by water, or even get a little fountain, a little desktop waterfall, a little fountain. I feel like running water for you, and why Mary Amy was getting such a visual image of the water, is very important for your energy and grounding your energy.
I also want to add
I'm a water sign.
I want to add too that you're very about penmanship, and you're an excellent letter writer.
I'm an excellent what?
Letter writer.
Ooh, so if you're picking up on that energy, there might be a poet in there, maybe a playwright.
There's something about writing there.
Maybe you have a book in there that hasn't come out yet. But thank you so much for calling. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for calling.
You're gonna have to give us a call back in a few weeks. Let us know how things unfold, or a few months, and I think you're gonna find much balance moving forward. Just be present and look for that guidance.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for calling. You're awesome.
Okay.
Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye. I just get so much. Okay, so here we go. He's gonna join us, and then I can't even bring up all this stuff that related to Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Okay, so tonight we have Bigfoot-Sasquatch, cryptozoologist, investigator, David Eller. And I just want to let everyone know we have upcoming guests. It's pretty exciting. We have next week, we have Grace Piscata, who's an energy healer and intuitive. April 3rd, we have Grethel Barago, and she's a light language, I guess you could say translator, and she's very successful on social media with encoded frequency. April 10th, we have Vijana, who's the author of Dragon Spirit Guide, intuitive and crystal expert. Okay, so I will just say a little bit about David Eller, and then I'll get into information that I have about Sasquatch as well as books. I have many books, because I was obsessed with Sasquatch for a very long time. Okay, so let's see. So David Eller is an investigator from Tennessee, and he has discovered stick structures in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee. I met David Eller online in 2021 when I was doing a podcast, or you want to say streaming, on Twitch. And he actually reached out to me because I was doing an interview with my friend. All of a sudden, his mind's dropping out of my mind. We interviewed him, and he is with the BFRO, and he's written books on stick structures. So David Eller reached out to me because he was discovering stick structures in Tennessee. So Bigfoot stick structures are those strange configurations made from trees and tree branches, often found deep in the woods, but not always, that defy explanation and could not even be created by man's or natural means. Why? Because they're so high up in the sky. Okay, they're literally not in the sky, but in the trees. They're so large, and they're so deeply in the woods and the forest. How could that possibly be? So Bigfoot, the Bigfoot phenomenon, known in folklore, the legend of Sasquatch, by many names depending on the language, more than 60 terms for Sasquatch. By Indian tribes across North America, it means wild man Sasquatch. The elusive species known as Bigfoot is regarded with great respect as a special type of being. And, you know, from what I've read, the Native Americans think of this as a spirit, maybe a god, because they have great respect for Sasquatch, Bigfoot. The Hopi, the Iroquois, and they believe it to be some supernatural being. Okay, so Bigfoot can look like he can look like either he has dark fur, brown, red, long fur on his head, black eyes, elusive nocturnal omnivore ranging from 6 to 9 feet tall, 500 to 800 feet. There's not just one Bigfoot. There's known to be thousands of Bigfoot, and they travel in groups. So there'll be little Bigfoots, like little child Bigfoots, and adult Bigfoots. They carry a very foul smell. They look ape-like. They will glide. It's funny because I use the word glide with Marguerite, but they will glide. They have a high-pitched cry, and they have footprints, 24 by 8 inches. They were known to be in the Northwest US and Western Canada. If you've ever looked into Bigfoot, there's this famous video of Bigfoot from Bluff Creek, and it's footage from 1967, California, by Roger Patterson and Robert Grimlin. Now that's been known, like, was that a hoax? Is there any proof? And I'll get into that in a second. It was never debunked. And the term Sasquatch was coined by British Columbia teacher writer J.W. Burns in the 1920s. Now, like I said, I got really into Bigfoot in 2021, and that's how I found, you know, some of these people. Like, for example, this book was by someone that I met, which he's so busy I can't get him on, Ken Garhart, and he is a cryptid guy, and he wrote all about Bigfoot. And I literally looked into it so far as this is from 1976. And this is from the FBI, because people were inquiring about Bigfoot, and they did some research on Bigfoot. Is it real? Pacific Northwest, USA. And then there was, they sent into lab fur samples, footprints, and there was a woman by the name of Melba Ketchum, and she did DNA on samples of Bigfoot. She claimed it was real, and then there was many people that came out and tried to get rid of her out of the whole, Bigfoot, I guess, Bigfoot, what were they, like researchers and investigators? And they kind of drove her a little mad, I think. And she wrote about Bigfoot for a while. I ended up finding her online, and she doesn't even want to talk about it anymore. So what would you like to know about Bigfoot? I mean, we're going to have David Eller on here in a minute, and he's going to be talking. He actually wrote a book, David Eller, and he actually put a chapter with my name on it. He's going to talk about it. And he wrote in this chapter here, I'm on page 162, another conversation with Mary Amy, because
Yeah, very cool.
I know it's interesting, right? So he wrote the book, The Patagonia, I think it's called, and something with mystery in it. So he wrote this book that's just come out. He mentions me on this page, 105, and talks about me being a certified intuitive wisdom coach. But so what kind of questions do you have about Bigfoot, Michael?
No, I'm pretty fascinated right now by some of the new video footage that's been popping up, the last couple months. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
There's been some pretty wild footage that's been authenticated. It's not fabricated, it's not AI, and they've gotten some really, really interesting footage of, these creatures that definitely look some hybrid Neanderthal gorilla up in the trees, breaking branches. I mean, you have tree, limbs and literally you have like the base of trees just being snapped, that there's no possibility of a human or even a small, like they looked into like the damage on some of these trees and limbs, and they determined, like no human could possibly do this. And they have recordings and the sounds that were coming from these things up in the trees and the tree branches that were snapped. And I mean, amazing stuff. And it really blew me away, what they're capturing. And I think there's so much stuff out there that like the military has, and just different things that haven't been put forth to the general public. But the latest stuff, and I think with modern technology and how far along the advancements in cameras and recording equipment has come, some of the stuff out there will blow your mind what they're capturing.
I just got distracted. I was still listening to everything you said. He sent me, of course, a text and said I didn't get the link. And this has now happened twice today with the caller as well. So he wants to get on, so he's
modern technology, good and bad.
I don't know why he didn't get it, because I've now sent it. I think I sent it twice to him. But I have not seen this footage that you're referring to. I don't know, where did you see this footage?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Please
let's see, the channel that was on originally. It's a cool guy. He talks about all different conspiracy theories. I think it was God Rules is the channel. God Rules or God Rules 2. And he talks about a lot of very interesting topics, ancient civilizations, talks about a lot of overlapping theories, that there's a lot of truth when you go down some of these rabbit holes. But I believe that's what I could look it up and send it to you. But if anyone's out there, it's a cool YouTube channel. I like it. God Rules. I'll give him a little promo, even though I don't know him. I've just followed his channel for a while, and he always leads me on some wild hunt of a new conspiracy theory that I find very interesting. But he puts a lot of very validated information on there.
There he is.
Ah, we got him. Okay.
iPhone entered. Let's see. I hope we're going to see him. David, is that you? Okay, well, I'm sure he's
almost. I could see the symbol of a little body, and it says iPhone. So he's trying to get on, or it's
I know
somewhere
he
in
is.
the
That's him.
matrix.
All right, how about now?
Oh, hi.
I can
Okay,
hear you, David.
we have
All
to
right.
see you.
Cool.
We have to
Cool.
see you.
All right, good to see you. Can you actually see me?
No, we can't see you yet.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm here.
No computer. Well, we want to see you.
Right. Well, you meeting.
There you
There
are.
we go.
There.
We got voice and camera.
There's too many buttons. You know, I'm a caveman, and man, I tell you, technology wears me out.
Yeah, I
Hi,
hear
how
that.
are you?
How are you, David? Pleasure to meet you.
I'm good. I'm good. Pleasure to meet you. This is exciting because Mary Amy was the first podcast I was ever on a few years ago.
Cool.
So I've made this circle now.
Nice.
Yeah, here we are. We're back again. Here we are, David.
Yeah, it's good. So much has happened. So,
So now,
you just asked
how did you
questions.
two first meet? What was
I'm sorry.
what was the first meeting? Where did you two come together?
Well, I found out about her after I made my original discoveries at the Pagoda site. I began to look stuff up, and I found a connection between one of my fellow researchers and Mary Amy. So I thought, okay, well, let me contact her. Maybe we can talk about some stuff. And so I got a hold of her, and then the rest is history, you know?
Yeah, I was
That's awesome.
obsessed. I was obsessed. I still am. You know, because I'm waiting to go on an expedition.
Yeah. Well, you know, come to Tennessee. So I'll take you around. I've done some crazy expeditions over the last couple of years, but yeah, Colorado is a good place. Alabama is a great place. A lot of places in Tennessee are lousy with these things. So that's what I do. I explore it and I find things. I'm actually researching 5 different properties around a cemetery where my wife is buried. And these people have come to me and said, look, we got stuff going on. Can you look at it? And sure enough, these 5 locations all have evidence of Bigfoot activity, from tree structures and manipulations to vocalizations to screaming. While I was sleeping in the cemetery one night, I experienced 3 hours of screaming. And it was different than anything I had ever heard. It was so bad that the next morning, the guy that lives a mile from the cemetery drove his truck to the cemetery and started cussing me, saying, why are you in my backyard screaming? Wow. And I said, dude, it wasn't me. That's what I'm down here researching. So that validated the 3-hour experience that I had.
So what's your translation to the purpose of Bigfoot being in that area and screaming? Why would they be by the cemetery?
Like a territorial thing, or?
It is a territorial thing. There's a river not far from there, and they've been doing a lot of rearranging the landscape. A guy has come in and was bulldozing and stuff. So I think they're actually being pushed from the river toward the cemetery and on beyond. But they travel just in hunting and in gathering food. They move a lot. So they're never in one spot very long. So don't expect them to stay around long. And that's kind of what's weird about the Pagoda site. These creatures that I was dealing with, they stayed around a long time. And I think that was because it was a very protected and controlled area. It is a government-owned 158-acre site. So there were no guns allowed. So I think they felt comfortable with the humans that were occasionally there. So they just stayed around.
Now, David, what I'm really curious about, I know there's some phenomenal stories and some really wild stuff you got in there for us, but I'm always curious about like the why, the what, like what got you on this path? Like what was that dynamic? What was that change, or what happened that really got you deep diving into this and said, you know what, we gotta unearth this truth, or what information we can find? Like what really drove you to want to do this?
Yeah. When I was 8 or 9, I read an article in Reader's Digest about the Patterson-Gimlin film. Up till that point, I had never heard of Bigfoot. Bigfoot creatures were all new to me. So I read it, I digested it, and it became a huge interest for me. I went to my mom and said, look, this article is talking about hairy giants. Do we have these here? And she said, well, I don't think we do. I think that says it's in California, but maybe. She didn't tell me at the time that she had actually seen one when she was a girl. So she didn't talk about it. So from that point on, it became a fever. I began to collect everything I could find, all the articles, newspaper accounts, all these different things. And I began to amass a good collection of stuff. It wasn't long after that I discovered Ivan Sanderson, who was a scientist, but he was willing to research things that other scientists didn't want to even acknowledge. So he became my hero. And I said to myself when I was probably 10 or 12 at the time, that I'm going to be Ivan Sanderson. And that's kind of where I am now. People see me as that. I've been called the Indiana Jones of cryptid hunting. So, I mean, that's cool. So one thing led to another. And as I got into high school, I said, when I'm able to travel, I am going to travel and seek out monsters. By that time, all monsters, all cryptids had become a fever. So it was Loch Ness Monster, it was Yeti, it was, all these other things that have been reported, but science doesn't acknowledge them. So after I got married, I was blessed enough to marry a woman who was also very into travel. So we just began to travel. So we went to Canada. We went all over the U.S. We went to the Yucatan, where I had my first paranormal encounter. We just had a ball hunting monsters. And I just continue that. So it's been over 30 years now.
Wow. It's truly been a lifelong journey. This has really been lifelong endeavor. No, that's awesome.
Yeah. My very first expedition was in Canada, in an area that's considered to have more Bigfoot sightings than anywhere else in North America. So that was my very first research expedition over 30 years ago. And since then, I've done all kinds of crazy things.
Oh, that's wild. No, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I think we could get, so now that we've got that question out of the way, I think we can get into some of the really wild stuff that our listeners are probably going to be sitting on the edge of their seats to hear. Like, what were can you just tell us maybe one or two of the wildest experiences that you've had while you've been doing this?
Yeah. Before I go into this first one, in case your listeners don't know, there are two factions of Bigfoot hunters. You have side A and you have side B. Side A is where virtually every researcher starts. Natural creature, North American ape, unknown natural creature subject to every physical law such as we. And that makes sense. You think everything is explainable. Well, but you still have the questions. Why don't we have any in zoos? If they are a North American ape, why don't we have any in zoos? The snow leopard is one of the hardest animals even to see. You cannot even spot these things. You could be out there for years and never spot one, yet we have one. We have them in zoos. There are no animals on this earth that we can't capture and put in zoos, but we can't capture a Bigfoot. So that's the first thing you begin to start thinking about. You have all the questions, but you kind of put them to the side because you're so sure these are North American apes. Well, then you have side B, which is spirit-based entity. No one on side A wants to go to side B. And once you're on side B, you look back when you were on side A and you realize you were an idiot. So until, when I first discovered the Pagoda site, I was totally side A. I was convinced these were natural creatures. Still had the questions. Why can you find just one track? One track, nothing in front of it, nothing behind it. One track, or a series of three, but nothing else. So that begins to go into something else other than a natural creature. So and the day my mind changed, I was walking down a trail. I had just done a sound blasting, series of sounds blasted into the woods. Nothing happened. I was expecting something to happen because the activity had been so heavy up until then. So I got my equipment. I'm walking down this trail, and if I'm going at 12 o'clock, this thing screamed at me from 7 o'clock. So I had already passed it, but I didn't see it. It sounded like a woman being murdered. That's the first time that I had ever heard the scream. So in my mind, I'm seeing a woman with a knife ready to stab me. And I think part of that was the subsonic frequencies. They were influencing me to think that, and were trying to push me out of the woods. Well, I bent down. I was sure a knife was coming at me, and under my arm, I saw this creature running parallel to the path I was on. Then it hit a series of trees, made a left, and began to pop the trees. Pow, pow, pow. After the adrenaline rush had ended, I thought, that's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. I'm going to get that thing. So knowing the trails as I did, I went down this trail, made a left, and I thought, with the trajectory that it's going to be right over there. So sure enough, I get over there. I hunker down, and I began to hear the pops and the snaps. Something is coming through. I get on the trail, and Big Daddy starts screaming. Into the woods, I'm hearing this scream. All of a sudden, this deer jumps out at me, and it's 10 feet away from me. And I don't know if you've ever seen the videos, but if you get a deer that close, a lot of times they'll rear up and start pawing and will rip you to shreds. So I didn't want that. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I'm standing there still. This deer is looking at me like Bambi, going, what's going on? Big Daddy screaming in the back. And then another one starts screaming at me to my right. I look over, and there's nothing there. There's not even a place for anything to hide. There is nothing there where these screams are coming from. Big Daddy's screaming. I got a deer in front of me, and I got an invisible monster on my right. That's when my mind clicked, and I thought, these are exactly what the Native Americans have always said they were, spirit beings that pass back and forth through reality. Now this explains everything, how they can control their weight, how they can leave one track. They control their density somehow, or they portal in and portal out quickly. And I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk sci-fi language. I want it to be natural, but I have to go with the evidence. I have to go with my experiences, and that's not what my experience was telling me. So the deer bolts to my left, and I'm standing there between two screaming squatches. And I truly believe I got in the middle of a deer hunt. I think that one screamed at me over there because it was telling this one, there's somebody coming. And it's pushing this deer toward that one so that they can jump it and feed on it. So after all of that happened, I called my friend Brenda Harris at the Upper Fruitland Reservation in New Mexico. A wonderful Cherokee woman. She started the Paranormal Rangers. They have tons of Bigfoot activity on that reservation. So she said, David, you understand now what we've always said, how these things are spirit-based. They're not flesh and blood as we know it. It's like when they're here, they are flesh and blood. They eat, they drink, they feed, they have young ones, which I saw one at the Pagoda site. They poop, and then they disappear. We've got all this evidence that we can't, but we don't have the creature in hand. So they go somewhere. And she said many of the cryptids that are reported are spirit-based. And at this point now, I totally believe it. I always say the more you learn, the less you know. I know less now after 30 years than what I did when I started because I've learned so much. And then what you learn doesn't jibe with what you think you know. So I mentioned Alabama. I had a friend, Anita, who lives in Alabama, and she's also a Bigfooter. And she said, David, let's investigate Cheaha Mountain. And Cheaha Mountain is an area in Alabama where some reports have been made. So we go all over the park area, and we find this overlook. And I said, well, that's where we need to start doing call blasting because you see forever down into this valley. And I said, if there's anything out there, they'll hear it. So we set up some call blasting. We did wood knocks. We did all these different things. And sure enough, we began to have communications. And it was enough that we thought, we need to come back here. So about a month later, we did. Now, she gathered some of her acquaintances. We had Anita. We had her friend Lanita. We had Janice. And we had Tara and myself. So I was in the woods with these 4 other women. And 2 of them are empaths, at least maybe 3 of them. 3 of them were empaths. And I have a friend who I can go into and I can see what she's all about. I've been into her twice. And when I come out, it's my muscles cramp up. I get headaches, whatever. But I mean, she's very open to me. So I can read her well. I'm telling you this because she's involved later. So the first night when we get in there, my thing is scoping. I'll scope the area. I'm looking for wood structures. I'm looking for any evidences. While the ladies are getting camped together, I find what's very close to the pagodas that I have found in Tennessee. It's enough like them that I said, okay, that's where I'm sleeping. I'm going to sleep right there and see what happens. So I set up my bed, my area. And by this time, the empaths are saying, we're going to get action from right over there. We're getting, something's telling us that they're coming from that direction. So we're sitting around the campfire later, and 2 of the ladies start saying, yeah, something is right over there. And I have set up lights in front of my bed, these flashing strobe lights. And these lights begin to move in tandem, not separately like this. That's like there is a connection between them and they're moving together, almost like if it was a barbell and somebody was holding it up like that. Now, there's nothing keeping these lights together. These are 2 separate lights. And I look over and I said, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And 2 of the ladies look over and they said, yeah, those lights are moving. I've got Janice next to me. She can't see it. And I'm saying, you can't see those lights moving. She said, no. So that was my first clue something weird was happening. 3 of us see it. Janice can't. So who's being influenced? Janice or us? Are we made to see these lights move, or is Janice made to not see them move? She gets out an EMF meter. And so she starts reading this, and it's making some evidence of activity. So I said, oh, I've got 2 in my car. I go get my 2, and I said, let's go down there and set these up. Sure enough, as soon as we get next to those lights that have now stopped moving, the EMF meters are going crazy. Now, EMF meters are ghost hunting equipment. Why is ghost hunting equipment going off during a Bigfoot expedition? These things are working so rapidly, we begin to ask questions. I said, let's just hold a conversation. We begin to ask questions. And they're very definite questions, yes or no. If the answer is no, make the lights turn red. If the answer is yes, make the lights turn red. So we would ask these questions and the lights would go depending on what the answer was. Through that conversation, we learned that they didn't want me to sleep there. They didn't want me to walk behind this structure, and that the action was coming from exactly where the ladies said it would, and that they were here to deal with the women. I've always said that Bigfoot creatures gravitate toward women, and this is validating that. So I get on the horn with my friend in Nashville, and I said, look, can you tune into this and see if you can connect with these creatures? And all of a sudden, she just goes blank. I thought she had hung up, but we continue to talk. And then after all these conversations, I get back on the horn with her and I say, are you still there? And she said, yeah. As soon as I stopped talking, I went into this trance and I could see what was going on. There are 3 creatures there. 2 of them are what you're dealing with. There's another one that wasn't manifested. Well, what I didn't know was that at the campfire, the women were dealing with this other creature that was trying to influence them and do all these different things. She also said that they were definitely there for the women, and they were going to be coming from our right ahead of us. And sure enough, that's where all the action was coming from. So by the time all of this ended, we were pretty much all worn out. Two of the ladies had to leave, and that left the three of us, Anita, Lanita, and myself. We all slept, and then we got up the next morning and did our day. That night, we began to have tree nuts fired at us horizontally. They weren't falling out of the trees. They were coming from over there going pew, like they were shot from a gun. And I said, okay, we're going to get some action tonight. And so we dealt with a lot of strange sounds and situations. One lady's phone lost power, but it continued to send SOS messages to her husband. But it's a dead phone. And then at one point, we're sitting around, and I hear Anita start going, and I look over, and she's sitting there with her arm out going, And I said, Anita, what is going on? She said, there's one out there. It's telling me it wants me to come out there. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, it's hurt. It's hurt. Now, Anita is a nurse. So I said, well, there may be a possibility that it has picked up on that, and it's trying to influence you to get into the woods, which I don't do. I don't want women to go out in the woods by themselves. Native Americans have always said, don't let your women go out in the woods by themselves, or otherwise these creatures take them. There's many stories about this, especially in Canada and in Russia. So I said, Anita, you're not going out there. Now, keep in mind, she can barely walk because she's got a bad hip. And I said, if they know you, if they understand who you are and what you are, then they know that you can't walk. Let them come to you. So she sat there saying, oh, it hurts so bad. It's hurting so bad. And she was getting a little bit distraught. And I said, okay, I think we've had enough. I think we need to just, everybody, Anita was sleeping in the car. Lanita was sleeping in the tent. I was in my car, and I said, I'm going to take the night vision goggles, get you ladies to bed. You get the tent, you get the car. I'm going to sit here all night and watch. So Anita gets in the car. Lanita's in the tent. Now I can see Lanita. She turns her light on every once in a while. I see her silhouette moving, doing things that you shouldn't be doing if you're trying to sleep in a tent when nothing's going on. But she will turn the light on, silhouette moving around, light goes off. Light comes on, movement, light goes off. Now, keep in mind, I can't hear anything. It's too distant. I'm in the car, and I actually have the heater on because it's super cold. There's nobody else around. Everybody's gone. It's too cold to camp, but we're the only idiots. So I'm watching Lanita doing all this stuff. At one point, she comes out of her tent, and she's like really adamant, like she's talking to somebody and just getting really upset. And she goes back in, turns the light off. And I'm thinking, what's going on? Now, during this whole time, I'm hearing on the side of my van. And I got out of my van 3 times thinking, what is that? Is there any tree branches, any grass, whatever is touching the van? There was nothing. There's nothing touching the van. All the time this activity is going on. The lights are moving. Lanita's going crazy. At one point, I began to see a blue flash. And at first I thought now it's on my dashboard. I'm thinking light is coming from behind me, but there's nobody with flashlight. There's nobody else here. And I'm looking around, and there's nothing. There's nobody, but this blue light, beautiful blue light, will flash on my dashboard. So were they manifesting themselves as orbs behind me? I don't know, but it was blue light. I had a researcher later tell me that maybe that orb was manifesting in the van. That makes a lot more sense, because if it was outside the van, I keep all my equipment, all my camping stuff, all my everything. There's too much equipment for this light to pass through without leaving a shadow. This was a brilliant blue light. So it's almost like it was behind me during this whole period. Well, then at one point, Lanita just kind of goes crazy, and she's moving around. She goes to the little toilet that we had set up, goes back, turns the light off, and then I see this huge human form shadow go across the surface of the tent. Not a silhouette. I saw a shadow person go across this tent. There's nothing there to leave a shadow. There's no light that could cause that shadow. It just went across the surface. At that point, Anita just gets up, turns the light on, gets a bunch of clothes, and goes into Anita's car. And that's the last I saw anything go on there, but I continue to watch these lights move, the scratching sound, and the blue lights. I get up the next morning, and the ladies have already started cooking. Anita said, David, I'm sorry about what happened last night. I don't remember it. And I said, wait, you don't remember doing the and saying that there's something out there? She said, no, I don't remember any of it. I didn't know anything had happened until Anita got in the car and began to tell me. I was oblivious. I didn't know anything that I had done that. Now, that was at the end of last year. She still can't remember everything. Slowly, her memory has come back, but she can't remember everything. She said as soon as she got into her car, she just went dead. She just went to sleep and knew nothing. So whatever that was influencing her sucked every bit of energy out of her. I began to tell, well, I said to Lenita, what was going on with you last night? And she said, you saw that? And I said, yeah, I was watching with the night vision. And she said, they wouldn't leave me alone. They would continually mess with the tent, and I would get up to see what was going on, and there was nothing there. But at one point, one of them pulled the top of the tent down and was looking at me. And that's when I began to scream and say, leave me alone. Why are you doing this to me? Leave me alone in the name of Jesus Christ. And then they would back off for a while, but they would come back. And I said, well, at one point, I saw a huge, big human-shaped shadow go across the surface of your tent. And she said, that's what they were doing. They were rubbing up against the tent. Like they were right there. Now, there was no creature that I saw. All I saw was the human form, big human form shadow. And she said, that's when I had to call it quits. I just got my stuff and went back. So Alabama has a lot of weirdness going on. And I would suggest if you want to go on an expedition, I'll take you to Alabama. I mean, if you know, but here's the thing. We hunt Bigfoot, aliens, and ghosts with the same equipment, and we get results. That tells me that there is a point of origin for all three phenomena. What that point of origin is, what these things are, I don't know, but I do truly believe that they are all sourced from the same point. So, and that's just two crazy stories. I mean, it's this, the last, I discovered the Pagoda site in 21. The last 4 years have been amazing. So if either one of you want to have adventures, let me know. We'll set up some stuff. And
yeah. Hey, I was a Boy Scout growing up. I did some survivalist adventures. I wouldn't mind a trek through the forest and exploring. It's pretty wild though, looking that shift of looking at them as like this supernatural creature, like this interdimensional being or shapeshifter or whatever. That's very interesting. Now, how new has that theory been around? Like how long has that been out?
It's not new. I mean, considering that the Native Americans have always said it. So but let's talk about white men. Okay.
Exactly.
White guys have only accepted this, I'm going to say in the last 10 years, maybe not that long, but it really is this line of demarcation. A doesn't want to go over to the other side. B can never go back. And it's among the higher, I don't want to say that. Let me say this. Among the well-known researchers, and I won't mention names, there are some that completely refuse to even consider side B. One in particular won't even allow a report to be filed if it includes any side B activity. And I told him, that's being dishonest. You're not getting the full report. That's like if you see a wreck and the police are there asking you questions and you leave out certain things, then that report means nothing. So you're just gathering what you want to gather. And there are a number of researchers like that. But most researchers on side B are just like me in that we don't want to talk about portals. We don't want to talk the sci-fi language, but by George, that's what we're seeing. The orbs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the orbs are a spirit phenomena. But I have researcher friends that have filmed, I've seen it, and it looks like these creatures are either coming out of these orbs or going in or becoming the orbs themselves. And when you start having policemen and rangers telling you stuff and showing you stuff, maybe I shouldn't, but I give that a little more credence than the general population. Not that I don't believe the general populations, but when you have officials tell you this stuff, it lends credence to a lot of it. And I've had one policeman say, I saw a creature inside an orb. I saw the portal. I saw this thing moving in and out of it. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that we just don't know. People call me an expert. I'm not an expert. I will be the first one to tell you I don't know. At this point, we don't know enough for anybody to be experts. I don't care who you see on television. I don't care who you hear lecture. If they tell you they're an expert, you might as well turn around and walk away, because there are no experts. We haven't studied this enough for anyone to really know anything. We can tell you what we've experienced for sure, and we can tell you what we think might be the situation, but none of us know anything. And that's kind of the difference between me and a lot of other lecturers. A lot of lecturers will try to imply that they know for a fact this is what's going on, and we don't know anything. So I'm the first to say I don't know, but I think people appreciate that.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think it's a very fascinating thing, approaching it from that spiritual aspect, because from my perspective as an outsider to this, and nowhere near the knowledge you have or the insight, but just from an outside perspective, I would think you would want to look at all aspects of this to try to uncover the truth, and that's what makes me respect you even more, as someone that's willing to put aside old beliefs. You see the same thing in this spiritual community of psychics, of mediums, and it's interesting. There's a very similar dynamic, and I think when you put down the preconceived notion and you're open to all possibilities, that's when you can really dig down to the truth, and I think that's a great thing when someone like you or someone like me can still stay open, even with different knowledge, and even though we're two different realms, mediumship and cryptid explorer. But I find it fascinating, and it really intrigues me with people being able, you being able to bring intuitives or psychics out into the field, and then being able to connect, on that psychic intuitive level to these creatures. It's very fascinating. And what I find most fascinating is just looking into this from like our research for the Two Psychics radio show and everything. It just seems like there's been a lot more validated evidence in the last 10 years or so. I mean, it could be, modern technology and cameras and recording equipment, but I think with that mindset shift of these could be supernatural creatures, and they can be interdimensional, or they can affect, frequencies, energy. I really think I think that's the breakthrough. I really do. Like, intuitively, on a mediumship level, that really resonates with me. It does. So I just want to share that. My perspective as a medium, I really think that you're on the path of finding the truth with the path that you're exploring.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I do think we need to have more folks, more researchers of varying disciplines together in one group, because I don't know everything there is to know about that discipline. That discipline doesn't know everything that I know about this discipline. So many years ago, I started a group called Pursue, the Paranormal Unit for the Research and Study of Unexplained Events. And my goal was, what's happening right now? Get a group of like-minded individuals together and begin to research one subject, or maybe two, because there is this phenomenon that I call hitchhiking phenomena, where you may be looking for Bigfoot and see a UFO, or you may be investigating an alien attack in Kentucky and you'll see a river monster. So these things tend to emerge out of these, I hate the word, portals or doorways. We just need to come up with a better word, I think. But there are a lot of different aspects to these things that happen all at once. So I would love to go out with you, Mary, a couple other my friends who have nothing to do with Bigfoot. They're doing their thing, and I agree. I think we need to gather up and go forth and see what we find. We may find nothing. That's one of the things that the reality shows kind of imply. Well, you can go out and in one night you're going to find something, and it's just not like that. Now, I have had much success in my research, but there are times when I don't find anything for a long, long time, and you have to understand that. You have to know that you could be out there many nights and never see anything, but boy, that at one time, there it is, and you got to capture it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the technology. I'm starting to think that the old technology works better. Film, I think, is a better way to capture imagery than digital.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because we've got all these, we've got so many game cameras out there. I've only captured 2 times something on a game camera that was bizarre. And who was it? Oh, a researcher. I can't remember his name. One of the guys on Finding Bigfoot. He looked at it. He couldn't explain it. And his wife looked at it. And she couldn't explain it. So you can capture stuff. But I think there are some researchers that think they see that beam and they avoid that beam. And that's why film, VHS seems really to work better. I've seen films that were shot on VHS that are magnificent. I mean, and shows creatures battling over tires. The this is, I don't know how much time we got. I could talk forever. But the story is this one family was
Part
having.
two.
I'm sorry.
We'll have to bring you back part 2.
Well,
we only have 10 more minutes because Michael has an appointment, but
all right.
It'll just be it'll be no. I don't want you to shut up.
No, it's fascinating. We could go for a couple hours with this. This is fascinating.
I just want to make sure a couple of things. First of all, we met because you had seen something Rick Rellis had talked about stick structures, and you call it the Pagoda.
Pagoda. I found
and
3.
He had written books about it. So you saw that I had interviewed him and you reached out to me, and then you started telling me about your experiences. And from what I'm gathering is that the Bigfoot send telepathic messages, and they insinuate, they change like you said, you go into a trance. They maybe put you in this flight or fright or what
fight or flight.
Flight or fright. Yeah. And you ended up writing a book. And I want you to talk about that a minute before we go.
Yeah.
And then we'll have you back.
Okay, cool. The Pagoda. This is a year-long journey into bizarre. Okay. It's a year-long journal diary format. I tell you everything that I have found every day that I find it. And then later in the book, I can reference something that happened back to an earlier chapter. So this is available now. It's $29.99 and it's published by Premium Press America. If you want a copy, you can call Betty at 615-353-7902. And it's not like any other Bigfoot book you've ever read. This is, in the very beginning of it, I say this is not a book of answers. This is very much a book of questions, because after a year of investigating, I had very few answers. I had a lot more questions, because these pagodas seemed to be, to me as an artist, it's almost like they were artists themselves, and they were creating these things as a way of just interpreting their surroundings by using their surroundings. Very Aboriginal, and each of them are signed. Each of them has what I call an axe, and it's a big stone between 2 saplings. They'll place it in there like that and begin to twist and braid. All of these things are braided together, and that is so it will keep that stone in there without it falling. And each of these 3 pagodas that I've found have been signed that way. One of them, the biggest one, The longhouse, which is 20 by 30, has 7 of these things. So something's going on. These are very meaningful to these creatures. So I'll show them to you. Unfortunately, now after 4 years, nature is beginning to take these things back. They are falling apart. They are sagging. So you will never see them in their full magnificence other than in that book. So I would suggest, if you're interested in the bizarre nature of Bigfoot, grab a book. Call Betty.
I'll call Betty. Give me that number one more time.
Yeah, it is 615-353-7902.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by it. I would love to get out into the wilderness and do an expedition and see if I can intuitively connect and make contact. That'd be some wild stuff. I just have to say, David, really appreciate your insight and the stories. This was phenomenal. I really wish we had more time to go a couple more hours on this because I'm really fascinated by it.
No,
and just on a side note, I just have to mention your artwork was fantastic. Mary Amy was showing me some of your artwork, and I think a lot of the art in your books you drew.
Yeah.
Phenomenal art too.
Yeah, I did the cover. You'll see. Yeah, that's my work. That's actually the incident of the scream, the first scream, where I turned around and saw this creature. So that's very close to what happened.
Wow. I'm wondering.
That's awesome.
Can you also remind everyone about you have a symposium?
Yes. The Atomic City Paranormal Symposium in Paducah, Kentucky, May 16th and 17th. We've got 8 great speakers. I'll be speaking about Bigfoot and what I call the Kentucky Massacre, where one of these creatures came through, killed 3 horses, 2 dogs, scared one dog so badly it refused to bark. Then it went over into another property and killed a calf. And I was the first one to investigate. I was on the ground talking to these people. It's a fascinating story. We've got Ron Moorhead, who recorded the Sierra sounds. We've got Ron Coffey talking about Kentucky cryptids. We've got Tamara Steyer, who does dowsing. She's going to do a dowsing demonstration. We actually have Anita from the Alabama incident on Chiaha. She'll be there. So it's going to be great. We've got a meet and greet Friday night where you will be able to sit and talk to these people at length. So ask them anything you want. Look up Atomic City Paranormal Symposium. You'll go to our beautiful website, which features artwork that I did. And yeah, you learn everything. Buy a ticket. I got to make money.
Thank you so much, David. Really appreciate it. This has been a fascinating conversation.
So exciting.
I'm more intrigued by Bigfoot now than I think I've ever been. So this is fascinating.
Fabulous. I love that. I love getting people involved. So let's honestly talk about getting together. And
absolutely. Yes. We're gonna have to exchange information outside of the show, and we're gonna have to make something happen.
Cool. Yes, I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate you coming through from Tennessee.
Yeah,
everything. And
everyone, David Eller, Bigfoot Investigator, and gotta check out his stuff. It's fascinating.
And just look me up. David Eller Bigfoot will take you to all kinds of stuff. People just put stuff on there that I've done. So David Bigfoot, Google it.
I'll post the phone number of the book for the book and the event that
symposium event. Yeah, it's gonna be good. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Have a great night.
All right, we'll see you.
All right, take care. Have a good one.
Okay, bye-bye. Technology, I'm telling
you. No, that was fascinating. What a great interview. Thank you, David, again. That was good stuff.
What did I just do here? I did something here, and I don't know what's going on here. Do you see that?
If we're still live or not live or whatever we are, it's all good. So I guess we'll say thank you, everyone, for tuning into another episode of Two Psychics, and we'll be back this time next week.
Okay, bye. We'll be back next week. See you soon.
Good one.
I can't get off this.
Mary Amy's staying out all night with you.
Wait, okay. Oh, wait, before we go, I just want to say one quick thing. We have next week Grace Piscata, and she's an energy healer and intuitive, and she'll be with us next week. And have a great night. Stay in touch, Michael.
Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye. Yeah, then.